Of all of the links to all of the articles, to all of the videos, to all of the memes that have been sent to me since the October 7th attacks, I find myself returning to a human interest story shared with me by my dear friend and mentor and former boss, Rabbi Michael Siegel of Anshe Emet, Chicago. The incident took place this past summer at the Hecht Archaeological Museum in Haifa. The Geller family were having their day at the museum, and their little 4-year-old son, Ariel, decided that he wanted to look inside a big clay vase sitting on a pedestal. Ariel's parents took their eyes off of him for a split second, and Ariel was curious, and he pulled ever so slightly on the 3-foot jar, reaching into it, and yes, you guessed it, caused it to topple and shatter. A rare, fully intact Bronze Age artifact predating the reigns of King Solomon and David, scattered across the museum floor. When I first read it, I cringed for Ariel's folks. It's every parent's nightmare. But as I reflected on the incident, my thoughts turned more serious. The broken jar, an image that finds ready application for the year gone by. Shattered lives, shattered dreams, and a shattered sense of security. The vessel of the Jewish people, once whole, now lay in broken shards on the ground. The metaphor of Israel as a shattered vessel is an ancient one. Long ago, the prophet Jeremiah preached to the kingdom of Judah in the years prior to the fall of Jerusalem. Our nation stood at the edge of a national disaster, caught between competing external forces and spiritual decay within. Jeremiah's rhetoric, if you've ever wondered where the word Jeremiah comes from, draws on the image of a potter and a vessel. Go down to the potter's house, Jeremiah's commanded. As one smashes a potter's vessel, so too the people and the city. A broken vessel, our people's most ancient and most enduring symbol for the fragility of a nation, impending disaster, and the irreversibility of God's judgment. It's why we break a glass at the end of every Jewish wedding. It's an image that's been there all along. It just cuts a little too close to us this year. None of us need to look very far to see that which is beyond repair, that which is shattered on the ground. This Yom Kippur, for reasons both obvious and urgent, we carry a collective feeling of brokenness. But in this moment, our Yizkor moment, we make room for our personal sorrows as well. The loved ones we carry in our hearts always, our mothers and our fathers, husbands and wives, sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, those friends and family to whom our thoughts turn during these sacred remembrances of Yizkor. We carry our personal losses even as we bear the sorrows of our people. And here too, in the personal sphere, the image of a broken vessel finds application. In the hands of Jewish mystics, the image of a broken vessel is transformed, though, from loss alone to the first step of cosmic healing. In fact, one school of Kabbalah, as taught by the 16th century mystic Isaac Lauria, is founded on the very concept of shattered vessels, in Hebrew, Shvirat HaKelim. I'm no mystic, but the basic outline of Laurianic Kabbalah is as follows. When God set out to create the world, God, being God, was everywhere. And in order to make space for the world which was to be created, God had to pull back or contract the divine presence, perform what in Hebrew is called simsum. God contracted, the world was created, and the divine light was channeled into a vessel. A finite vessel, however, cannot contain God, an infinite God, at least not for very long. Under pressure from the divine light, the vessel shattered and broke. Those sparks of light spread far and wide throughout the universe. The image is poetic and powerful and made a world of sense to Lauria's generation. Remember, this was 16th century following the expulsion of Jews from Spain. As Jews were dispersed around the globe, the image of scattered sparks wasn't an abstract one. It spoke directly to the dispersed condition of the Jewish people. All of this, however, is not where Laurianic Kabbalah ends. It's where it begins. As Jews, we believe that every human being contains a spark of the divine. The sparks that flew forth may be separated from the vessel which initially contained them, but the spark persists in the universe for eternity. The task of religious living is to find those sparks, to retrieve those sparks, and restore the divine light, a process known as tikkun, or mending. The sparks are scattered, but they're not lost. They're within us. They actually are us. In fact, it's the act of retrieving a lost spark, a lost soul, that remains in the mystically minded, the holiest mitzvah of all. And it's an image, I do believe, that's not just about Jewish mysticism, but it's about memory, and it's about this very moment of Yizkor. What is it exactly that one is doing at the Yker service? We're all, as the High Holiday Prayer Book reminds us, finite creations, like a passing shadow, a fading cloud, or a broken shard. There's a reason the call of the shofar is shavarim, the same Hebrew root meaning broken, the very language alerting us to the fragile and fleeting nature of the human condition. The grief that we feel at this moment is a sorrow born of the fact that our loved one is no longer. Grief is the price we pay for love. We want nothing more than to have them back. Their quiet counsel, their roaring laughter, their gentle touch, their unconditional love. The shards of their mortality, the vessel of their lives beyond retrieval, each of them, and by extension, each of us, broken. And yet, as with the mystics of old, in our brokenness, we still aspire for repair, healing, and restoration. The vessel may be no longer, but the neshama, the soul, the divine spark, it endures. The memories of our loved ones are recollections of the values they held dear. As the poem goes, at the rising sun and as it goes down, we remember them. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of the winter, we remember them. For as long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us. We remember them. By such a telling, the Yizkor service itself becomes an act of restoration, each remembrance a reaching out and retrieval of the spark of our loved one. Some were granted length of years. Some lives were cut short in their prime. Every life, by definition, bound by the limitation of human mortality. At some point, the vessel gives out. But that spark, if we reach for it, it's eternal. That spark can be carried from one generation to the next. Memories of a loved one can grow faint as an echo, or they can rise like a song at dawn. At Yizkor, The spark, the memory of our loved one, seeks entry into this sanctuary, a light to our darkness, a lamp to lead us forward. Yizkor doesn't make us whole again. The absence, physical absence of our loved one denies us that which once was. Yizkor does, however, offer the promise of tikkun, the knowledge that absent our lives may be of our loved one, their presence continues to illuminate our path forward. Brokenness is our shared condition, but it need not be the end of the story. Not for us, nor for that matter, young Ariel Geller, whose story I began. The museum authorities quickly understood that the breakage wasn't an act of vandalism, just the work of a curious and energetic boy. The museum director reached out to the family, expressing his concern wasn't for the broken vessel, but the well-being of the boy. They were worried that Ariel would feel ashamed that neither he nor his family would ever want to walk back into that museum or any museum again. Ariel and his family were treated to a special tour, the only difference being the new exhibit, the sign reads, "Please don't touch." As for the broken vessel, despite attempts at restoration, the crack marks and the damage on the jug are still visible. A small piece was even purposely left out, leaving the restored artifact visibly incomplete. It's actually a deliberate decision on the part of the museum. Everything, explained the museum curator, that happens to an object is part of its story, even the missing part. Like a passing shadow, a fading cloud, a broken shard, the lives we live, the lives we remember, fragile and finite, with cracks all around, and some pieces missing forever. We turn our eyes to the heavens, and we see through the darkness, and we see the sparks landing ever so gently in our hands and on our hearts. We reach out for them. We gather them up, one by one, the memories of our loved ones, drawing them close and holding them dear, always, and especially at this time of Yizkor. Thank you for being part of the Park Avenue Synagogue family. I hope you enjoyed the sermon. Please consider becoming a regular part of our online community by scanning the QR code or visiting supportpas.org or making a donation. Shalom, and see you in shul.